Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Be Like Christ. Welcome back to our Bible study in the book of Proverbs. We are on day number 2. We're on Proverbs number 2, chapter number 2 today. And if you would like our free PDF, you can download it on our website at tobelikechrist.com for free. Let's go ahead and jump right in so that this video is closer to 5 minutes instead of like 12 minutes, which Proverbs 1 was somewhere around there. For our first section is our outline of Proverbs. We are in, of course, section number 1. That's the first 9 chapters of the book. This is the way of wisdom versus the way of folly, and why wisdom is something worth pursuing, and we're definitely going to talk about that today. The second section will be the Proverbs of Solomon, and the last 2 chapters of the book are the Proverbs of Augur and Lemuel. Our themes for today, number 1, wisdom is something that should be pursued with great energy and zeal. And then number 2, wisdom will help its possessor avoid and defeat temptations that are presented to them by evil men and women. And for our definition section, I've selected 2 words from the text that we want to take a closer look at. The first one is equity. It's in verse 9. This means fairness or impartiality. And then the second one is devious. Being devious is being skilled at using underhanded or less than honest tactics to get what you want. On page number 2, we are going to take a look at our outline. We've got 22 verses today, and I thought it was best just to keep them all as one section. So verses 1 through 22, I've entitled it, Wisdom is Something Worth Pursuing. So Solomon once again assumes this posture of a father who's speaking to his son, just like we saw in chapter 1, in our middle section of chapter 1. He tells his son that if he heeds his instructions, if he listens for wisdom, if he seeks understanding with the same kind of zeal that men seek after and pursue money, then he will learn the fear of the Lord and he will find the knowledge of God. Remember, we talked about in the last chapter how the fear of the Lord, or the proper respect or reverence for the Lord, is where all knowledge and wisdom starts. And we talked about how that theme gets repeated throughout the Proverbs, and Solomon once again reaffirms it here. God is the source of all wisdom, and it's from him that we can start to learn true knowledge. He gives understanding to the people who delight in him and respect him and try to follow his commands and instructions, who are obedient to him, teaching them the ways of justice, righteousness, and equity. This wisdom that God grants will act as a guide to those who receive it. It's going to lead them safely. It's going to give them discretion, help them avoid evil, and help them avoid trouble. There's 2 specific troubles that are mentioned by Solomon to his son in this chapter. The first one is that this wisdom is going to help them to avoid corrupt, evil men. And in the chapter, these crooked men who have abandoned the way of righteousness are mentioned. These men are trying to lead other people into the dark ways that they've chosen to live in. And also, there's another type of corruption that is going to help his son avoid, and that's the corruption of evil women. So we have evil men and evil women. Specifically, Solomon here mentions an adulterous woman who lures men into destructive relationships with her smooth words. And if anyone knew of the influence and the dangers surrounding women, it would be Solomon, because he had a lot of women and a lot of wives. This idea of the adulterous woman or evil woman is going to come up several times in the book of Proverbs. So we have kind of an introduction to it here. Of course, Solomon wants his son to avoid these pitfalls, and so he encourages him to pursue wisdom with all of his heart and energy. He wanted him to become a wise man and to walk in the ways or the paths of righteousness, as the text says. He knew that God had a history of uprooting and cutting off evil people, wicked people, but he establishes wise men and he causes them to flourish. So this is Proverbs chapter 2. You can see how it fits very neatly into the first 9 chapters of the book and the title that we've given it, comparing the way of wisdom against the way of foolishness and the way of sin. Now we can go down to our final section. Let's finish up with our application. Do we pursue wisdom like we pursue money? Solomon tells his son that that's the way that he needs to pursue wisdom. We need money to live. We go to work even though we don't always enjoy it, because without a paycheck, we don't have any food, we don't have any shelter, so it's really a non-negotiable. The question is, do we seek wisdom that same way? Do we feel like it's a necessity, or is it just something that we can go without? We're disciplined in our job and our career because we feel like that paycheck is non-negotiable. Are we also disciplined in the same way in our pursuit of wisdom because we feel like I've got to get this, I've got to understand. I've got to have these insights. I've got to understand God and have proper fear of him so I can live the right way, so I can avoid trouble. Are we willing to pursue it even when the process of getting it? I suspect that we could all work harder in our pursuit of wisdom. I know that I definitely can. So for application today, think about this. What are some things that you could implement into your life to pursue wisdom with more zeal, to treat it like it is a non-negotiable? Thanks for joining us for our study in Proverbs chapter 2. Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow with a new outline and a new video for Proverbs 3.